Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Yvonne and you have landed on Ginger Chick Rehab, where I love to go treasure hunting. I love to look for secondhand pre-loved items, not only to decorate my home with, to resell, but I also love to make items over. So I challenged myself this time to think, what items are just getting overlooked? They have good bones. They're a little bit on the homely side, very much outdated, and can I give them new life? So I'm taking 3 really unwanted items that most people might have just put right into the trash and giving them a up. So here are the pieces that I am challenging myself with. Let me know, would you have picked any of these up to make them over, or just have added them into your own home as home decor? So this one is definitely outdated with that carved in sugar detail that's off-centered. You know, it's that perfectly imperfect, but it is a good solid wood piece. It's still very useful. It just needs to be a little bit, in my opinion, prettier. Now this one I would have thought was a cute little writing desk. It may be missing a drawer. It may not be missing a drawer. I really don't know. The mirror kind of threw me off like it was somebody's makeup little area. Yeah, you know, you can see that it's been painted multiple colors and it's been sitting around, and yes, I did pay money for it, y'all. That's just how things are around these parts. And I'm always like that, the one at the end of the sale going, sure, for a couple bucks, because they never give anything for like less than a couple bucks. So came home with me, and then we have apples. I'm not sure if people still decorate with apples or not, but I thought this would be a good one to give an update to also. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with this one only because I need to fill in the letters of the word sugar on the front of this. So first of all, we need to take it apart. I think I would like to change out the knob on this one. I think I do have one in my stash. This one is actually screwed in, but I'm going to see if, since it's wood glued, probably I'm going to see if I can tap it out with a hammer. So I can tell that there is a layer of grease on here that's really attracted all that dust. So I'm going to go ahead with some hot water, some Dawn dish soap, and see if I can get that first layer of dirt and debris and grease off. I soaked the hinges in a bowl of hot water and Dawn dish soap, and you can really see how that just turned all mucky, all that grease that's built up even on the hinges. So I'm giving them a good scrubbing, make sure that I get that off, because in my design, I think I'm going to use these as is if they turn out to be a nice patina underneath all this grease and dirt. So now to fill in the word sugar, all that engraving, I'm going to be using some wood filler Bondo, which is a 2-part, so it has the wood putty, and then you add a hardener to it, and as soon as you start mixing in the harder, it starts to harden. So you have to, this is not a product you can walk away from, you have to work with it why you have it mixed up. So because within like 10-15 minutes it is hard as a rock. It's been 20 minutes since I put this on. It's a little bit thick in spots because of going down into the engraving of the wording, and I raised it up because I want to be able to sand it flat. So I have 80 grit sandpaper. I told you this gets rock hard, so within an hour it would be just not fun at all trying to sand, but it is well worth it to fill in those letters. Then I'm also going to give the body of this little cubby box a nice sanding too. That will help get any of that exterior grease that might have soaked into the wood. There doesn't seem to be a top coat on it, only like a stain, but I can definitely feel like when I look at my sandpaper, I probably have a lot of grease built up in that sandpaper. After get everything sanded, we're going to go ahead and get it wiped down one more time. Inside of this box is in great shape. I don't see any reason why to waste paint to paint it. So I'm going to go ahead and take the time to tape it off. And also I think I'm going to leave the bottom unpainted just so that kind of coordinates with the inside of this. And probably the underneath of the door also, just kind of leaving some wood features. Now this wood is really raw and I am hoping to have a cracky, chippy finish. I'm hoping. So I'm going to go ahead and seal this in with a couple coats of shellac. That's going to even out their porosity. It's going to stop my paint from just soaking into that raw wood. And if there's any of that grease left on, it should seal that in. Of course, I definitely need to seal in with some shellac where I bondoed, even out that porosity between the wood and the bondo filler. I've had many requests to try this combination of milk paint from Sweet Pickins. So Sweetie Jane and Pantry Door equal parts. They said this looks just like the old-timey green. Though for some reason I only have a small bag of Sweetie Jane, but I look like I have enough to do this project. So yep, this is my first time. Usually I would add basil or in the pickle to it, but many have suggested it, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a try. So equal parts powder to equal parts water. I'm doing the half and half ratio between Sweetie Jane and Pantry Door. Now sometimes I notice the milk paint is a little grabby when I'm putting it on, so all I do is just take a mister bottle and spray it just a little bit. I don't know why from mixture to mixture. I think I'm doing exactly what I do each time, but sometimes it just mixes up a little bit differently. So if you feel like you're ever grabbing with your brush a little bit, which is going to pull paint off, just add a little bit of water to it. And I am going to try to lay a heavier coat on top of the lettering. I know that the way that the paint will absorb in, even though I shellacked it and I filled it in, you still may see a hue of the wording, which is kind of neat because I think it's character, especially you've seen that on older salvage pieces. So, but I still want to do a heavy little area over that wording. There is some beautiful cracking and crazing going on. Exactly what I wanted. I didn't really want it to chip off. And without pre-shellacking it, preconditioning this wood, the paint would have just soaked in and I probably wouldn't have had any of this. So well worth the time spent. But I do need to do a second coat, which is always so nervous, like, oh, I hope those crackles and crazings will come back. Well, if it did on the first coat, I can only pray it's going to do it on the second coat. Oh, be still my heart. Would you look at that? If I could have every item I did turn out this good. I don't know, every item turns out differently. I just absolutely love it. Love the whole thing. But I am going to add a little bit more age by distressing it, getting those edges to show through so you have some wear and tear. And then even on like the sides of this where it's got that thin piece of wood, I want to bring out that detailing a little bit too. You need to seal in milk paint, and I do not want to change the color. The color is beautiful, the crazing is beautiful, and if I put any kind of dark wax on there, the chances of that lettering popping out might happen, so I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go right for the hemp oil by Sweet Pickins, and look at how it just, the crazing's already there, and the wood underneath is dark, so it's already just gorgeous and beautiful. This is just going to seal that in and really just bring it back to life. Oh my gosh. Y'all, I do love the color. I very much admit to it. It's a fun, very vintage green color, mixing those two together. Hemp oil, you wipe on, you let it sit for 20 minutes, and then you go back in and you wipe off any of the excess. Now this is where I didn't want to use anything dark, just sealing it in with some natural clear hemp oil is working out just fine. Yes, y'all know that I did the sugar and covered it up, so your eye will tend to go to where those areas are, but most of the time, most people may not even notice it, only a slight, but it is just that vintage character of an older piece. As I'm removing my tape, I'll have some build up of the paint that will be hard and chunky, so I'll have to go in and sand that a little bit smooth. You don't want to leave, you want it, if I'm making this look old, I want it to be worn like it is old, even though it's not. But if you have those hard chunky edges, that kind of gives it an idea that you just painted it. Again, I want this to look like a holder piece, so I don't want to paint my hardware. I'm just going to use the hardware as worn as it is. That is still the vintage character of it all. It cleaned up the way they cleaned up the little bit of black. It might have been bronze underneath, but I like that it's two-toned. And for my final, I am going to add a new knob. I just need to find center. And of course, it's like 11 and something the length. It can't be like where it's like 12 inches and you can just find 6, right? It never can be that easy. But I still need to find center. So do y'all think I'm crazy that I picked up this one? But I like that it was kind of a little writing station, a little, you know, you could put your pens and your paper and your little whatnot. It could be like a little file box. I thought the character, sometimes you got to look at the bones of something and not how it's painted. Okay, so if this is going to be a writing desk, I don't see any reason to have a mirror. So I'm going to attempt to take the mirror off without breaking it, hopefully. So just trying to loosen up the sides, trying to test my areas to see what is stuck and what isn't stuck. And just in case I accidentally break it, I probably should have a towel over it. But I think that I have enough of the sides loosened up now. If I just tap my spackling tool with a hammer, it should pop right off. And of course, there's a little bit of brokenness, but that's nothing a hammer and a brad nail can't fix. So I get to do a whole bunch of sanding on this piece. Not only has it been painted the blue, which is a latex, which is glossy, which is gummy, then we have the burgundy underneath, and I need to try to get as much of it off that I possibly can. So that's just going to be a lot of sanding. So I'm starting off with 80 grit sandpaper. The most that I could with my Orbital sander. Now I need to go back into the corners and those detailed areas and use my mouse sander with that little tip. I should be able to get a little bit closer in there. The most that I could with a power sander, and now there's just those areas I have to go back in and I have to hand sand. So I have a little detail area, probably where you'd set a pencil. I've got that little indent curve, and then of course I've got the inside of the cubby. It really didn't take as long as you would think. I got and did the best I could in the inside of the cubby. That's all you can ask for. All you can ask for. So now I'm just going to spray it off with the air compressor to get any of that sanding dust out of the way. And now we'll get this cleaned off with just Dawn dish soap and hot water. Dawn dish soap is inexpensive. It's multi because I use it in my house. And it really is a great cleaner and a great degreaser. But just like before, I've really got a lot of raw wood showing. I do have some paint that's still on there. I've got some stain that's still on there, so I need to even out the porosity and fill this in with a couple coats of shellac. For my paint color, I knew that I wanted to go dark, so I'm going to go ahead and do Cast Iron by Fusion. Love this stuff. I love this color. So Fusion is a primer, paint, and top coat all in one. Great coverage, and this little brush that I use to paint, y'all, I absolutely love them. And yes, I do clean out my brushes after every painting job that I do. They are an investment, and I love these little brushes. I did do 2 coats, and then I do mist it just slightly to help with any brush marks, even though it really has minimal brush marks with this brush and the way that I try to have minimal paint on my paintbrush. That's why I love these brushes. But yes, just making a nice smooth back and forth motion. Spritz it just a little bit with the mister bottle, and then brush it one more time to help with brush strokes. Thank goodness the same company has a long-handled brush, because painting inside a cubby is not the funnest thing by any means, but it needed to be done. Cast iron is just a great color. It is what it is. It's cast iron. It's not a gray. It's not a black. It's just a nice, rich color. So I am going to distress it. This is just a look that I like. I love seeing that natural wood, and I want my pieces to make them look like they have been worn and they've been used, and they're older than what they are. Now, Fusion paint is good and on there, so I'm going to go with a 150 sandpaper to have to distress the edges. It'll kind of gum up a little bit, but you know that, I mean, I'm working with this all in the same hour of me painting it. So I'm going to go ahead and get all those edges distressed, and then I will take 200 sandpaper over the rest of the area, along with some steel wool, the finest grit steel wool that there is, which is the 4x4, and make sure that everything's sanded nice and smooth. So you could just leave Fusion paint as is, because that is a top coat, but I like to sand. I just have a finished feel and look that I'm going for. So after getting it all sanded, blown off with an air compressor, make sure that there's no sanding dust, I'm going in with Jolie's black wax. It's going to be one more level of protection. It's even going to richen up that cast iron paint a little bit more. So that's where the sanding came in. That was important, of doing steel wool and sanding every area, so that there was something for the black wax to grab onto and get in there. So it's a wax on and then wipe off the excess. This is such a great side by side. You can just really see how it richens that cast iron right up. Again, I want this to look like an older piece, so I'm not going to spray paint or paint on the hardware. I am going to add a little bit of patina to this to give it actually a little more age. They actually cleaned up better than I wanted them to. I use a combination, a little bit of the gilding wax. This is the patina turquoisey color, and then a little bit of the rust, because you know I'm a rusty crusty girl, just to give it a little bit more age, especially around that middle swinging hinge part. So now for the update on this one. We definitely need to get the Apple hardware off first of these drawers. Since they were kind of just like a dowel, just a slight little dowel that left a hole, I'm just going to fill it in with some spackling. We have a couple price tags that need to be removed. Now remember, this is press board, MDF board. It's so I don't want to, I got to try to be careful. So I'm going to go ahead and heat up those tags with a heat gun to reactivate that sticky, so hopefully it comes off a little bit easier. I'm going to go ahead and use some 200 sandpaper to scuff sand this entire piece. I don't want any heavy sandpaper because this is just that thin board. Sanded, we're cleaned, and now I'm going to go ahead and seal this in, especially the drawers too. I'm going to repaint those drawers. You can see all that wear, or that's how they're painted. I don't really know. But yes, I want to get this sealed in with a couple coats of shellac. It's just a great primer for this. Here's a little closer look. You can see all the wear. You can see the uneven painting job on these drawers themselves. So I don't really like to paint drawers. I don't really like to paint cubbies, but it just has to be done. So for these, I'm just going to spray paint them, since they're already black, with some black Rust-Oleum's enamel paint in the flat sheen. Nice to have the inside freshened up just as much as freshening up this outside. So I absolutely love this Fusion Heirloom blue color. Oh my goodness, it's just absolutely beautiful. So this is not going to be a distress piece. This is just going to be a clean painted piece, because nothing underneath there I want to show through this paint. So we're just going to proceed on painting a couple coats of this gorgeous blue color. Let me know down in the comments below, do you think this is amazing? It's almost like a robin's egg blue. It's just a gorgeous color. Yes, not all paint jobs have to be a ton of steps. I still like to sand my piece. I still like to make sure that it is nice and smooth. I'm just using that fine grit steel wool. I can't emphasize that enough, that it is the 4-0, the finest steel wool that they make. That's just enough to get any texture, any like brush marks that may be on there, and just smooths the entire piece down. And then after I get it all sanded, I'm just going to recoat it with another top coat of Homestead's Natural Clear Wax. You can see, using that softness of the steel wool, when I go over those hard edges, the corners and that, it doesn't distress them. It does not take that paint off. It just smooths everything down. So thank you so much for watching today's video, and what did you think? Did I give these some love? Are they treasures now? Will somebody want to add them into their home decor? So give me a quick comment down below. Do you have any of these items in your stash? You're like, you saw the good bones when you bought it, but then you're like, oh my gosh, this might be a little bit too worse for wear. Let's get those saved. So thanks again for watching today's video. And as always, if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you're new and you're checking out this channel for the first time and you want to become part of our YouTube family, please hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know we uploaded a new video. And we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye.